Hello and welcome. My name is Aberforth of TheTokenMinorities, and I'm here to bring you today my UU Open Round 1 games. Now, if you don't know what Grand Slam is, it's my favourite tournament on Smogon. It's all of the lower tiers, no OUs, so UU, Ubers, RU, all of them. You compete in various opens, and then your points are tallied and you get invited to a Grand Slam where you duke it out in all of the tiers, and then the winner of all of the tiers gets a trophy and is crowned, well, like the best lower tier player, I guess. And so I had a fair amount of controversy last year, a bunch of ghosting cases happened, but hopefully we can move on from that this year. And this is what the focus of most of my uploads are going to be in the upcoming weeks. Assuming I don't get knocked out in round 1 in all of them, so let's hope that doesn't happen. So I got paired up with Rosie Bear for my round 1 UU game, and I built a couple of teams alongside Tony Flygon, who was on my mute team, so shoutouts to him, thank you for the help, because UU is my worst metagame, and without him, I would be playing with like Lucario, aggro, like Mono Steel or something. I didn't know exactly what I was planning, but I'm not good at building in UU at the very least. And I can never use teams that like people just pass me. I can't work with them very efficiently. Anyway, we have Mega Aggron, Sylveon. The Mega Aggron Sylveon combo is really useful in this meta. The physically defensive and specially defensive will so many things. Slowking adds on because we need a switch into fire types, in particular stuff like Entei and Arcanine, and so that is physically defensive as a result. It also gives me Regenerator, so I don't need to worry about passing wishes to more than one thing, and it also offers me a win condition and a Crocoon check with Calm Mind and Psyshock. And that's the defensive core of the team. The offensive core is this on the right, which is Hydreigon, Crobat, and Heracross. Crobat is Skyplate with Brave Bird and U-Turn along with Roost and Defog. Defog because, if my opponent is using Spikes, Aggron, Sylveon, Slowking, they all hate Spikes, like absolutely hate Spikes. And I'm going with Skyplate to try and maybe trick people into thinking I'm maybe banded. Also just powers up Brave Bird without any worry about me potentially needing to prevent myself from taking recoil damage, and it's more reliable as a booster than Expert Belt is because flying doesn't hit that many things super effectively. It's more of a good offensive type because of how many things it hits offensively. And U-Turn to allow my main wall breaker, which is the Hydreigon. It is a Specs Hydreigon with Draco Meteor, Flash Cannon, Dark Pulse, and U-Turn. It allows me to get this in safely, as well as pivot into any of my checks for a particular threat that tries to come in and set up on Crobat, and also prevents me from getting doubled on and stuff like that. And then my main win condition and utility Pokemon, which is my Scarf, Moxie, Heracross. It's got Close Combat, Mega Horn, Stone Edge, and Knockoff. Knockoff gets rid of things like Deblades, a Violite, so that Aggron can check it more efficiently, and is just generally a good move to spam. Stone Edge hits a couple of things like Crobat, that otherwise Heracross wouldn't be able to touch really effectively, and then Dual Stab because they're both really powerful. And yeah, my opponent is using Sylveon, Crocodile, Deblade, Celebi, Infernape, and Ampharos. And his Ampharos is completely checked by my Sylveon, and his Celebi, I have both Hydreigon and Aggron to deal with whatever variant it is. If it's Earth Power, Hydreigon checks it, and if it's Dazzling Gleam, Aggron checks it, and also Aggron checks any Baton Pass shenanigans. So I'm not too worried about Celebi or Ampharos. Infernape could be an issue. Infernape could be an issue. It's just got so many potential sets, I don't know what he's running. If it's Nasty Plot, then Sylveon can take it on. If it's SD, Crobat can take it on. Crobat can take on any set that isn't Scarf, and the Scarf set I can take on with my Slowking. and also potentially my Sylveon if he gets locked into close combat. Deblade, I've got a couple of Ghost Resists that outspeed it, so not too worried about that, especially when we do have Mega Aggron. And the Sylveon is the big one, because I am defensive Aggron, not Spadef Aggron, so Hyper Voice will be able to 2-hit KO me if he is choice specs, and my own Sylveon will not outspeed him and will take a huge chunk from Hyper Voice. So I've got to offensively be checking that with my Crobat and preventing it from coming in on my Hydreigon. So yeah, that's the matchup, and let's just get into the game. I led off with Aggron and C led off with Sylveon. Sylveon is not a good Aggron switch in, so he just switches out into Celebi. I go for Heavy Slam, not wanting to risk him going straight for the 2 or 3 at KO, and he reveals Thunder Wave on his Celebi. As I set rocks, I was thinking here, okay, even if he's Earth Power, I can take one of them, see what he is, and then I can be more efficient and I can roar him if he's Dazzling Gleam, trying to lure in my Hydreigon. I went for U-turn here because I thought that he wasn't going to stay in. Dark Pulse could have killed from that range, it was a roll in my favour, but he does just go for Thunder Wave, and this tells me a fair amount about the way that he's going to be playing. And here I just decide to go for a Heal Bell. It's nice to not have my Aggron paralyzed, and my Sylveon doesn't want to be paralyzed either. And the main one was Aggron, really. Sylveon is not going to leave this 1v1 not paralyzed, so yeah, I just went for a Hyper Voice there. Got fully paralyzed. I was just trying to force him into a recover, as he does switch out here into Doublade, as I just go for Heal Bell. I didn't think he would stay in then, because it can't really do anything to a Celebi, not a Celebi, a Sylveon, and I could take advantage of it in various ways. He does go for Iron Head with the blade, not trying to set up too early, and now he goes back out into Celebi. But I predict this, I go for Roar, trying to rack up chip damage on all of his team, and he gets sent out into the Blade, which is very nice, because the Blade is the thing that is completely checked by Aggron and his team. I can always safely go for Roar versus that. He gets sent out into Infernape here, and he doubles into Celebi. I could not risk him being a special Infernape, and I go out into my Slowking here, so well played on his part, as I'm fully expecting him to just T-Wave me here, but I don't have any good answers to Celebi, really. I got good answers for an offensive variant, but this support and annoying one is, well, annoying, and it's not very easy to take on correctly. I go for Hyper Voice there, just getting damage on the Doublade. I was expecting him to actually stay in there and annoy me for a few more turns in case I went for Heal Bell, but he does just choose to go out into his Doublade straight away and SDs. Now I am fully physically defensive. I can easily take anything that this Doublade wants to go for, including that Sacred Sword, and I can take a Shadow Sneak to follow it up as well, and kill him back with Earthquake. And after this, he does go out into Crocodile, and he reveals Intimidate, so I'm not entirely certain why he did that, because he goes for Pursuits. Aggron died to Stealth Rock on the Switch anyway, and I don't have Healing Wish on this team, nor anything that can learn Healing Wish, so I don't think that that was the right play. I would have personally chose to go out into my Sylveon there, or maybe even just my Celebi and kill it with the Giga Drain and annoy my team even more further. As I do get a Hyper Voice off, it's going to be doing about 35%, 40% or so to the Celebi, as he's just recovering up, and I get paralyzed there, but now he's conditioned into thinking I'm just going to stay in at the very least, so I can switch out here into my Crobat, which can just attack the Celebi. As Celebi reveals that it's physically defensive, very physically defensive, and it took that like a champion. And I basically got to spam Brave Birds here. Brave Bird does outdamage U-turn, despite Celebi's 4 times weakness to it. The fact that I have got Sky Plate and its stab, it outdamages U-turn quite easily. And now I've got to play offensively around the Celebi to make sure it never comes in a situation where it can recover up. So I go out into my Hydreigon here and just fire off a Dark Pulse. And the Dark Pulse was potentially a bit risky because he does have this Sylveon that can come in, as I try to go out into my Sylveon and I take the Hyper Voice. Not well at all. That is a spec Sylveon, and that's a bit of a threat because now I'm paralyzed. I can't even try and outspeed it, and I've got to basically go for my Hydreigon, going for either a flinch or getting a huge chunk of damage off with Flash Cannon and trying to counter sweep him with my Heracross, which is what I go for. I have to go for it, so I don't have any other play to go for. I go for close combat here because it's got the highest chance of hitting. Mega Horn would have also killed at the same base power, but if I missed, then it would be dangerous. And he goes out to Aberforth here, and this basically comes down to a roll. It's about a 40% roll, assuming that he's standard. If he's like agility, which could fit well on this team, to be quite honest, I could see this being agility Aberforth. But if he's 136 HP, 0 defense, which is the standard set, then he has a 40% chance of dying right here, as I go for the close combat and we get a crit. Now the crit might have mattered, I don't know his spread, I didn't ask after the game, and I don't know how much the crit mattered. It could potentially well have mattered. And now I think that this Infernape is scarfed because of the way he's brought it in, and I can go out into my Slowking here because he goes for Flare Blitz, and I can just fire off a Scald with my Slowking, as he does reveal that he is Life Orb, so now I am definitely capable of killing this Infernape with my Heracross at either +1 close combat or two close combats on the bounce if he does try and pivot with Crocodile, and this basically assures me the win. He goes for Earthquake there, I just go for Scalds. I'm thinking that this is possibly like a Scarf Crocodile, maybe. I don't know the damage calc, unfortunately, but Scarf I would normally assume would be Moxie, but he actually reveals that he's either Adamant Scarf or he's not Scarf because my Heracross outspeeds him and kills him. So that was game 1. This is a best of 3 series, and we potentially got lucky with the crit. I don't know his Aberforth spread, but you can't really change anything, and my play was exactly what I went for. 40% roll isn't bad, but it's still a little bit annoying that I had to win by hacks and I couldn't win on my own power. So yes, let's just move into the second game of the series. As I'm now using, again, this is a team that was built by me alongside Tony Flygon. I've got Mega Beedrill and Banded Crocodile offense. Now, Mega Beedrill offers U-turn, free switch-ins to Crocodile and to Salamence. Salamence, this was during the Salamence Suspects when this round happened, so you were allowed to use Salamence, despite it not being allowed on the UU Suspect ladder. You're allowed to use it in the tour games, so this is the Salamence meta team that I built. And U-turn gives free switch-ins to Band Crocodile with Pursuit, and into my Salamence, and into my Sylveon as well. And now this is Banded Crocodile, Life Orb Special Salamence, Rocks, Cobalion with Sword Stance, Close Combat, and Iron Head. I believe this is Spec Sylveon, and this is Life Orb, Nasty Plot, Crocodile, not Crocodile, Toxicroak, sorry. And yes, now Toxicroak is the Suicune check on the team, really. Sylveon is a nice powerful wall breaker, they always pair nicely with Mega Beedrill. Banded Crocodile and Spec Sylveon, they both work really well together. I've got Life Orb, a Salamence with Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, Roost, and Defog. And I have a SD Cobalion. I already said I have SD Cobalion. I am a little bit slow, something like a Scarf Salamence, if it can predict me right, could put in a fair amount of work. I do have several answers to Scarf Salamence, but still. Also, DD is like his Gyarados. They are a big threat to my team. They'll outspeed everything at +1, and it's hard to get enough damage on them to kill them. So I've got to play carefully around that Gyarados. Thankfully, I do have some answers to it. Toxicroak, the best he can do to it is Bounce, and I've got a good couple of Bounce switch-ins. I've got Double Intimidate to lower his attack stats, and I've got everything aside from Beedrill can live a hit from Gyarados as well, so that's useful for me. And yeah. Now, as for the rest of his team, by the looks of it, I would say that this Gudra is more likely to be a defensive variant, just based on the fact that he has got it plus Fortress and Swampert, and that's a nice defensive core. Roselia is looking really quite a big threat. It doesn't really have any switch-ins on my team, and Chandelure is kind of annoying, but he doesn't realize it's kind of annoying because he thinks I probably have Sucker Punch on my Toxicroak, and I probably also have Scarf on my Crocodile as opposed to Band. So yes, his Mega Swampert, however, is a huge threat to my team. At +2 in the rain, it is not +2 in the rain. In the rain, it is a huge threat to my team. It needs almost no chip damage on my team to kill it. So I basically need to, whenever that comes in, attack, and prevent it from, well, sweeping me, really. I need to utilize my Intimidate well against that, and basically put it in range of my Toxicroak's Vacuum Wave, or stall out the rain turns, because it can only set them itself, and then outspeed it and kill it before it can have the opportunity to set the rain again. And honestly, I've got a pretty poor matchup as well, because he's also got the Fortress. Fortress can wall my Sylveon relatively well. I mean, it is 3-hit KO'd, but it's still a Sylveon, a spec Sylveon that's taking hits from it, so that's not exactly what I wanted to see. Anyway, let's just get into the game. He leads with Fortress as I lead with Crocodile, and I was just leading with Crocodile to get a huge amount of damage off, and that is physically defensive Fortress, really physically defensive. More than I would expect as well, as I just go out into my Salamence here just to defog away these spikes. As he goes out into his Gudra, and here he predicts me well and goes for Fire Blast, and my Stealth Rocker and my Cobalion just goes straight down. As I go out into my Sylveon here, go for Shadow Ball, predicting him to switch out into his Chandelure, as from that damage, that is a Specs Gudra. I am certain that that is a Specs damage based on how much it did to his Sylveon, as that means that we can just afford to roost up on his Salamence, with my Salamence on his Gudra, as he takes advantage of this and switches into his Chandelure. Now, I need to play really aggressively here, and I predict him to go for the Shadow Ball. He actually goes for the Trick, which is very useful for me. I actually prefer being Scarf Crocodile on this team. It gives me something else to outspeed his Gyarados at +1. And we managed to knock off the Chandelure, kill it, and here I just choose to go for knockoff on the Gyarados, get rid of its leftovers so it can't play sub shenanigans with me. And here I choose to hard switch into my Salamence. I can take a Waterfall easily and then pivot back into my Crocodile, maybe if he goes for Bounce, but he actually just goes straight for Bounce, which means we can kill him with a Draco Meteor, because not a -1, a neutral Gyarados can't kill Salamence. And now he has the opportunity to set up with his Swampert, as I just go hard into my Crocodile, as he reveals that he's Rock's Pert, and that is so nice to see, as he's actually not Mega Swampert at all, and I thought he would be Mega Swampert. This is just going a little bit fast for me. I thought he'd be Mega Swampert. He doesn't have a Mega on his team, and I'd assumed that maybe Rocks were on the Fortress. I saw Spikes, but then I thought, okay, maybe he's just a weird Rocks and Spikes Fortress variant. But he's actually a defensive Swampert with Rocks, and that is so much better a matchup for my team. A Mega Swampert matchup is really hard to play around, and it's why I pivoted straight into Crocodile in the first place as well. And the fact that he isn't Mega is so much better for me than if he was. I can basically weaken this thing, and then I can proceed to win with my Mega Beedrill, and that is what I'm going to attempt to do. He kills me with a Scald, as I managed to get a 63% off on him with Earthquake, but Leftovers brings him back up to nearly 50%. As now we can go out into our Salamence here. We can live anything that the Swampert goes for, so we can just go for a Roost right here, as he goes out into Gudra. And I actually thought that he would predict me to switch out into Sylveon here, but he does go for Draco and misses, and that's unfortunate, that miss. He pivots into his Fortress here, because of course he does. He realizes that the Sylveon comes in on his... he actually pivots into Roserade. And here I choose to hard switch into my Mega Beedrill. That was potentially actually a choke, and I'll explain why. I should have gone out into my Toxicroak, if anything, because Toxicroak was not needed for the rest of the game, and I could then just fire off a nice sludge bomb, see if we get poison on anything. If he goes out into Fortress, then we can set up on that. And if he'd gone for Sleep Powder there with his Roserade, which was a pretty likely play to be honest, then Beedrill was useless, and he'd gone for Extra Sensory, which he does reveal here that he has, then my Toxicroak would have just gone straight down, and I could get the free switch into my Mega Beedrill. If he'd gone for Extra Sensory there though, and I'd switched into my Mega Beedrill as I did, then my Beedrill could very well have just gone down for absolutely nothing. We go out into our Salamence here, and we just fire off a Fire Blast, we kill off the Fortress, not letting it set spikes, and this now looks quite like my Mega Beedrill just wins. He goes out into Goodra here, and I just sack off my Salamence. I go for the Roost first as he goes for Sludge Wave. That's doing more than 50%. He did predict me to switch out there, and I'd go for Draco Meteor, just sack off my Salamence as it actually OHKOs Goodra. And I actually remember being really surprised by this, because I was severely underestimating how strong Salamence was, and I was overestimating how specially bulky Goodra was, probably, because I was expecting that to do about 60% at most, as we actually crit the Swampert. It didn't matter. After the Draco Meteor damage, then we'd get the free switch into our Mega Beedrill, and we could just proceed to Poison Jab, and it would kill these Swamperts. If it didn't, and I could calc that, then I could just U-turn into my Toxicroak, and then go back out into my Beedrill and kill it. As we do just go out into our Beedrill here, and kill the Roserade with U-turn. And that means that we progress to round 2 of the UU Open. And this game was not very hacksy. I mean, the Draco Meteor miss was unfortunate, but it didn't matter, because then if he did hit, then we got our free switch into Sylveon to KO'd anything. And it still looked likely that Mega Beedrill would clean up, so I don't feel like that miss mattered all that much, to be honest. Although it would have made it a much closer game, and I would have had to make a few different plays than I did, and bring in Mega Beedrill. I might have actually needed to bring in Mega Beedrill on the -2 Goodra, and just gone straight for the U-turn, get the free switch into probably actually my Toxicroak on his Fortress, and then Nasty Plot up, and then try and weaken his team that way. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this UU analysis. I'll be doing more of these for all the individual opens, stuff like the LC Open I'm playing later today actually, and my RU Open will probably be next week's upload. I'm going to upload the LC ones probably on Friday, I believe, and so on and so forth, until I'm knocked out of all of the opens. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.